Right, day 2. I've just come back today with a spare coil pack from my spares. Now, I've just put the coil pack back on the car. That is a coil pack off Beatrix, the old coil packs that actually they worked actually quite okay, to be honest. They were the originals, so I changed them for new ones as precaution because I thought that it may have been causing a bit of a stuttering misfire. Turns out I don't think it was, but it definitely made a difference with the new HT leads. I've had to replace that coil pack with its HT lead because the originals they were dreadful. Actually, there was a crack in one of the HT leads that I never noticed before, and that was what was causing our popping issue. I'm glad to say on starting the key there's no misfiring and it drives really nicely, and the owner has said it's actually driving really nicely after actually taking it to do a commute not long after I left on the first day. So I'm glad that's all sorted, but there is one curiosity that I had to look at before I leave, and well, we've got a couple of issues that have actually come up, but the first one, on taking this cover off, oh dear, can you see that? There is oil dripping everywhere. Jesus, that timing belt is covered in oil. The camshaft seals here behind the sprockets have sprung a leak. Now, I've got a feeling that the Lucas stuff that I've put in the system will possibly cure that leak, so hopefully it won't get worse. But I know what all of you are going to say. It was 6 years ago that the head gasket was done, or around about that time, maybe 5 years, and the timing belt looks as if it has been done because I can't see any major cracks, but there's a lot of shininess going on the belt, and it's sometimes I wish I hadn't seen such things, and I think the owner wishes that I hadn't done that now, but I can't unsee it. And as you guys know, wet belts on modern engines, especially certain Fords, are not very good. They don't tend to last very long in oil, and we've got a lot of oil, and that's not going to be good for the belt, and I would not be driving this car long distance, put it that way. I mean, it could last, you know, another couple of years like this, for all I know, because it's a relatively well, 5-year-old belt. You're not going to get many problems from that. But on a K series, it's good practice to change the timing belt every 6 years. So the work is probably going to be on the table, that probably while the next jobs, regardless of noise, hopefully the noise will quieten down. Hopefully things may bed down a little bit in terms of its behaviour, but the main priority now is making sure that the engine does not smash its pistons into valves if that belt breaks. So the belt will have to be changed with a tensioner, possibly a water pump. We'll see the extent. We may not change the water pump for the sake that actually we don't want to disturb the cooling system, and we're trying to keep the costs low. If it was my car, I would change the whole lot, because that's, you know, that's the way I work, guys, and it's the best piece of advice. But we may not change the water pump based on, maybe we've got quite a few things to clean. We're going to have to do a thorough clean inside here. It's going to be a couple of days job. I don't think it's going to be a day, because I want to do things as thoroughly down this area as possible. It's the repeat procedure that I've done on Beatrix. If you haven't seen me do a timing belt change on Beatrix, it happened over several episodes, in a bit of a bloggy restoration of that engine being rebuilt from the block upwards, literally. And this car definitely needs some TLC. I was a bit suspicious by some oil down there and down there, because that couldn't have come from the rocker cover. I've just had to tighten a couple of these bolts because I think there was a little bit of oil coming from here, so I've had to re-tighten this after yesterday, but it all looks good and there's no misfires, etc. Now I'm going to come on to the second problem. Right, all the doors are shut. The bonnet's not shut, but that will not affect what I'm about to do. And we're going to lock the car now. Yeah, it's unlocking by itself. And this is really strange, because we're scratching our heads, because the owner said that this has never happened before. And the first question is, we've been messing around. Have I disturbed something? And I was thinking in my head, just to make sure that I've definitely not disturbed anything. No, the only fuse I pulled was the fuse in that fuse box. Well, obviously, that is exactly where you're going to find some fuses, Andrew. Jesus. Nothing in here is to do with the central locking. Everything to do with the central locking happens here. We've got the Lucas module, which sorts the alarm out and everything. And I'm not quite sure how that works on these cars because I'm more familiar with the Petron system. But the boot is definitely shut. Those two doors definitely shut. These are definitely shut. But the car will not lock. The central locking works. The fuse, there's nothing wrong with the fuse because it works. It locks. It responds to the key fob. There's nothing wrong with the fob. There's nothing wrong with the central locking. It all operates. But what's happening here is a very simple thing. The doors. Now, if I open that door and I try and lock it, same thing happens. Do you know why? Because the door is ajar. So the computer thinks, right, we obviously, so Andrew's pressed the fob, got to lock all the doors. Oh, that one's open. Can't lock that. Unlock that one. But it won't unlock just that one. It will unlock them all because it's central locking. They have to be all locked together. So that's one thing. It's basically the car saying, there's a door open. And the other sign that led me to this conclusion, and I'm going to just come in here and shut this door, is precisely this. I'm just going to put the keys in the ignition, okay? Now, we should have the door, just turn that off before I get copyrighted. There should be a door jar somewhere. I'm just going to open the passenger door. Yep, that's come on. Shut. It's gone off. Now, it did that for that door and that door, but guess what? These doors, nothing. And neither does it happen for that door. So, and the tailgate also, it also puts the ajar symbol on. So that indicates that those doors are telling the central locking unit, oh look, if we're shut, we're shut. Or we're open. It's as simple as that. But these doors, no. And I'll tell you why that is, I suspect. These switches. See, now we're in the open position, but when the door is shut, nothing. Absolutely nothing. What you're doing is that is breaking the earth and the light goes out. But when the door is shut, or sorry, when the door is open, that metal switch, you've got two plates that are contacting. That creates an earth, a constant earth, and that creates a light on the dashboard for the the door ajar. Get my words right, Andrew. So yeah, that's not ideal. And the same one for the back one. Now, the easy thing to do is I'm going to take these switches out and give them a bit of a clean. It's just a single screw, and I'll take them out, give them a clean, and see what happens, because it might just be a case of a dirty connector. Or coincidentally, and I don't know how this has happened, two switches have gone. And I'm not quite sure if these were reacting before because I didn't pay attention. But the owner's never had a problem with the central locking. But this is a really big telltale sign that things maybe are not quite right. Right, with Beatrix, it's simple. Just unlock. I know this is the Petron system, but let's just do this properly. So, doors open, lock. And mine will not lock. Now, maybe the Petron system is different, but that will definitely not lock. The horn goes off as well. Big feature. Now, if I actually was to push this in, so I might have to hold it in, but if I press the actual fob, I can't actually do it with two hands. What happens is, it convinces the car, yep, that's unlocked. The door switch has been pulled, let's lock. But then it unlocks. In exactly the same way Maria's car unlocks. So I'm thinking now it might be a module fault. It's possible it could be a driver's door fault. But the fact is, it's happened on both this side, which is very, very interesting. I'll take this screw completely out. Don't lose this screw by any chance. Just pop it on the seat. Now, do not lose this wire. If that disappears into the door pillar, you are in serious trouble. Now, I'm just going to unlock. Just take that off. Oh dear me. Right. Yeah, I'm going to give this a bit of a contact clean. I'm going to give that a bit of a clean, and then I'll put that back on and see what's going on. I'm wearing my nice jeans today. I came to do one simple job of replacing a coil pack, and they end up doing a multitude of jobs. Okay, ignition is on. That's back in. Let's see what happens. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to that driver's door switch, take that out and swap it over and put it on this side, and see what happens then. Right, so the switch on that side is now on this side, so I'm just going to pop that back in and put the screw back in, and just, there's no harm in actually swapping the good one for the bad one and seeing if the problem moves. And this is a good tip for a lot of things, like something like if you're not sure if there's a HT lead that's gone but you can't work out which cylinder, just keep swapping the leads over until the symptom potentially moves somewhere else. So if this now works and that side doesn't, we may have the issue sorted. So I'll move this, I'll put this one on that side, and let's see what happens. Right, switch back in, door shut. Okay, that back in, door shut. Ah, right. Okay, I think I know the answer. Yep, door shut, door open. And this one, oh boy, I think we've discovered the problem. It's a faulty door switch. So if this side is happening, so basically if we had a dodgy one in this door, we've moved it over to that one, and we've got the exact same symptom on that door switch is faulty as well. Ah, right, okay. So it looks like we've got some faulty door switches, so we're going to have to add that to the list, and I bank that this is what's causing the central locking problem. It could be it is a cheap fix in some respects, because yeah, it's just, you know, it's how easy is it? It's just, you know, a simple screw and switch and simple earth wire. If there's anything on a car with one wire, it's an earth. It's one of those earthing switches, so basically it works off breaking the earth to flash a light or turn a gauge on and off, etc. And this is very simple. So this is a good one. That is now a dodgy one. The dodgy one's there, and the dodgy one is also on this rear driver's side. So yeah, good problem solving there. Right, another issue we've got down here. It's quite slow, that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put some just GT85 just in there, get it along the seams, on the channel, just make it easy, and then it should be just a little bit easier if I just won't go down below there. The motor just isn't very happy at the moment. It's a tiny bit better. It's getting there. Beatrix's windows took ages to clean. Anyway, let's do a conclusion. Right, I've taken the car out again after replacing that coil pack with one from Beatrix, and I can honestly say the difference from before in this episode is astronomical. The car now has a heck of a lot more power. I did think when I took it out that even replacing the spark plugs, it hadn't made that much difference. There was a difference, but there wasn't much. I was a bit disappointed, especially the air filter and fuel filter being all dirty and choked. And I was like, this is not right. But I've replaced the coil pack, and I can honestly say we've got full power. The car absolutely glides down the road. So I think we're going to replace the other one as well. I think we're going to order two new HTDs, 2 coil packs. I can have my old coil pack back, or the owner can keep it as a spare. Either way, really. But it definitely needs some new coil packs and HTDs. I think they're a bit tired, and it just goes to show there was no codes. Coil packs don't have to throw codes for them to have been very worn and, quite frankly, very tired, especially the HTDs as well. So that's another thing to consider. Also, door switches. We've got door switches on the agenda. There will also be a timing belt change. Timing belt, maybe not water pump, but timing belt, tensioner, camshaft seals as a minimum. And the other thing that may not be picked up on camera is we have a problem with the CV joint on the driver's side. The outer one is starting to click on full lock, even though the boot on both sides, both the outer joints, they're slightly cracked, but they're not perished. They're not leaking any grease, which is so weird. But anyway, I'm now going to conclude this episode because properly now. This is day 2, and this car is getting far better. Anyway, take care, guys. I will see you very soon. It locks. What the heck is wrong with this car? Why has it just decided to start locking itself? It's working again. Locked, unlocked, locked, and flashing lights. Oh, for goodness sake. I don't know what's happening with this car. Still, door switches on the agenda.